Just there we go. Brilliant. So today for episode 28 of the Irish Iron Podcast, sponsored by Elevate Injury Clinic out of FBT Coolock, of course, ran by Daniel Murphy, who is actually keeping. He's still working. He's still working. So anyone who mentions Irish Iron to him, or kind of just mention you listen to the podcast, and he'll sort you out with a little discount off the first treatment for you. But for anyone listening and not watching, the first guest today is none other than Brian Keighery, who also is a Masters competitor. But that being said, he's really fresh to the scene. Like, I mean, you only started competing, what, like 4 years ago or something?
Yeah. First show was 2017. The true story I tell people this and they don't believe me. I actually didn't lift a dumbbell until I was 34 years old. And that's a true story. I played soccer my whole life, I was very, very, very late getting into the scene. So I just actually got to know Brian Hickey. Actually was the one that I kind of got an interest in the sport,
Yeah.
So yeah, it was 2017 was the first show, man.
Deadly. So like what kind of like going into the football, did you play football at like a competitive level? Like, did you play for a team? Or?
Yeah. We played schoolboy football with Charlie Orchard, and then played at various clubs then at senior level, but it would have been kind of high up in the Leinster Senior League, So he was always a good standard. So yeah, like soccer was my main sport, and that was me literally from when I was a kid till I was 34 when I stopped playing, So I had to plug the gap then somehow, and started going to the gym. So
did you find when you started off training, were you a good responder? Like, did you get strong fast?
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of your other shows, and I would have had people say to me when I was playing soccer, "What gear are you on? What are you taking?" I was always sort of a big lump, I was a centre forward, so nobody liked marking me. So I was always sort of a lump to begin with. And I think as soon as I started training and started actually lifting weights, although I hadn't a clue what I was doing for a good 2 years at least, I responded very quickly. I could see that's what kind of, grew the interest, I suppose, because I could see the response coming quite quickly,
Yeah.
I thought, Jesus, I might give this a go.
Yeah, no, deadly, man. And I suppose at that point, did you coming from football and everything like that, did you know what you were getting into, or did you kind of just go in and, just laid you down that path that you're on now?
I hadn't a clue. I mean, just like anything else I'm a competitor. I love to train, and playing soccer at that was always competitive. So when you're finished playing something like that you did for so long, you're looking for something, to do. So when I got into the training and the bodybuilding, I knew it was for me, but I didn't realize what was involved. I suppose after a couple of years in the gym, or maybe less, I kept hearing about lads who competed, that fella competes, this fella competes, and this intrigued me, what's all this competing about? Competes in what? Bodybuilding, all right. So, you start having a look at it, and Brian Hickey came down to Club Active Gym in Navan. He was doing a sort of a seminar, and I heard Brian speaking, and after that I gave him a shout and said, Jesus, I want to do a bit of training with you. So Brian was the first person, probably around 2016, I went to Brian, and Brian got me my first meal plan.
Right.
So bear in mind, up before this on, I was still on breakfast, lunch, and everything my missus put on the table, That's not too long ago, by the way. So Brian was the first one to give me an actual meal plan. And after I learned about bodybuilding, I seen lads competing, I was determined then to tick that box and to do that show,
Deadly.
So that led me to NABBA in 2017.
Yeah. And you did the first timers there, and how did you do in that?
It was a disaster, an absolute disaster. But to be honest with you, it was a great experience, and that's what I needed. I went in because I wanted to tick the box. But for me, it was almost like it wasn't a bodybuilding show. I thought it was an ab contest.
Right.
You know what I mean? It wasn't a bit of muscle for me. For me, it was like I have to have a set of abs, which kind of had when I was younger. So I have to get a set of abs. So, you know, my head wasn't, and Brian will tell you, like, Brian, God love him, had a hard old time with me, because if he told me to do an hour cardio, I did 2. I thought overdoing everything was the best way to go. So, you know, it was one of them things, you know. So, but it was a great experience, because I still find it very hard to look at them stage. I don't know if you were like that, but I find it hard to look at some of the stage shots. I look at them and I'm almost.
I have from when I first competed. You see, my story is a bit different. I knew what bodybuilding was before I started training, so I actually started to train to compete, and I actually had to just play team sports to get access to a gym at the time. So it's kind of like I did one to do the other, but when I got injured, I kind of just said, you know what, like, I'm just going to do the bodybuilding anyway. But my first show, I have, the only thing that's up there is the video that Irish Muscle shot back in 2013. And that's it. I don't have any pictures. I don't have anything up until 2017. And even at that, there's no stage shots from NABBA. So, like, but I don't like necessarily, like, it's not that I don't like looking at them. It's just at the time, I didn't think about it. I didn't think about taking them.
Yeah, it was a different time. Yeah.
But I suppose, like, with yourself, then after that first show for yourself, did you kind of, what going forward then? It kind of was a step up. Like, you did 2018 and you did 2019. Did you?
Yeah, I think I did 2017. That was the first. That was dipping the toe in. Hadn't a clue what I was doing. Brian, God love him, had a hard time with me. He did his best, but that's when I met Ruslan. Ruslan, me good mate and me brother. I consider him my brother. I've been with Ruslan since then. And Ruslan would have been coached by, you probably remember Thomas, who used to win the over 90, the over 90 class in RWB.
Thomas Spernica.
I can never pronounce his surname, but lovely fella actually. Ruslan would have been very close to him, and so Ruslan had that background at school, and Ruslan won a few shows himself. So I knew Ruslan through Mantis. Mantis was me mate, and we used to train together. So it was a natural progression for us to start working with Ruslan. But that's when everything changed. I mean, the difference was colossal in the approach.
Yeah.
You know, I suppose up until we actually, I never done an off season before.
Okay.
So do you know what I mean? I went into, we just for 2017, it was just, I came to Brian completely raw. I needed to lose a lot of body fat that had been there for a long time. So it wasn't until the 2018 prep season that it was actually a full season where I actually bulked, you know what I mean, in the proper sense. And the gains that we made that year were colossal. It was a big difference in 1 year, you know?
Yeah. Now, do you think, like, in my mind now, the reason I would say that you progressed so quickly was because when I first started training with weights, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have, like, my first few years were kind of all over the place, but, like, I responded well enough. Do you think because you had Ruslan and Mantis, you know, you skipped the bullshit and you got straight to the meat?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, obviously, Brian's still a good friend of mine. Yeah. Probably one of the most experienced guys in the industry.
But it was a prep. It wasn't an off season. That's the thing. Like, it was a prep.
Yeah, we didn't. You know, it wasn't. And we're going to Ruslan. Ruslan's a top bloke. He's a mate. You know, that kind of way. So it was him who actually pulled me aside after 2017. He was surprised how much I just sort of deteriorated when I landed on stage. He thought I'd look a lot different, but he did say to me, I was a bit down, and he said, "Look, Brian, you have a lot more potential." Because they'd seen what sort of weight I was throwing around the gym, you know. So obviously training with Mantis and being coached by Ruslan was a big game changer, you know.
Yeah. So. I mean, Mantis came up, I think he was a year or two behind me as a junior. So, but he's a big kid. I'm like there's not too many juniors with legs like his, you know. Like I think when he comes into his own, there's not too many guys who'll be able to stand with him, you know.
No. I think look, I'd be biased, and people might ask you about, you know, in the sport, who do you think is gonna, you know, who could be our next pro? And throwing that around sometimes can be met with people sneering. But for me, because I know him, I know what he's capable of. I know how strong he is and the condition he can get in. And having seen him now lately, actually, I don't think I've ever seen him looking as good as he does right now. He's working with Cuba, so he's sort of, he's finally found that we're both actually ironically looking at the same thing. I'm working with Brian Ward now. Brian's coaching me now at the moment, So, and ironically, we said Mantis, we're at the same sort of crossroads where personally I needed to decomp to get my body sort of, insulin was, that sensitivity and start being, that's what we're working on at the moment, and then try to start upping the carbs off season, That's what we're doing with Brian. But Mantis nailed that on the head with Cuba. He's putting solid food away now, and he's grown, Plus he's staying in shape.
20, he's what, 23 or 20?
25.
25. So he's a year younger than me. So
yeah,
deadly. Yeah, no, that's good. But I suppose like you kind of hit the sweet spot then, like with that training partnership. So I suppose like your training methods, like I've always seen, like it's a lot of weight, but you obviously didn't start. Like, did you kind of realize, look, I mean, there's not too many guys squat. Like, look, not a lot of bodybuilders in Ireland would squat above 4 plates. Anyway, I mean, so I suppose before you even started like bodybuilding, like, did you was your lower body always dominant from the football? I suppose.
Yeah. I'd like the boys used to call me tree trunks. That's the true story. On the football team, I always had massive legs, like monstrous legs, and I was a bit of a lump. So, like, I'll tell you this story. This is another true story. When I started training, when I say I started lifting dumbbells, right? I started doing kettlebell classes in Navan, right? Kettlebells, then TRX, and then there was one guy. He was a CrossFit coach. He just started this CrossFit, so I went to the class one night, and he was doing sort of barbell work, right? Just sort of Olympic lifting. So he had a big chalkboard on the wall, and it was the biggest lifts of the day or whatever was recorded. So they were doing squats this night, and I'd never squatted before, ever. So by the end of the night, I'd squatted 4 plates. The first time I ever squatted, and that's a true story, Yeah, hold on, mate. So this.
Sorry, we seem to have lost.
Good stuff.
Deadly stuff. So anyone listening, we pretty much just little jump. Grant just had to swap from computer to phone, but going off where we were going off, 4 plates first squat, and was it just the 1 rep? It was just the 1 rep you did.
No, it was a horrendous fucking sloppy rep, but I think I realized the power was there, I remember seeing a couple of boys, these Polish boys. I used to see these Polish lads in the gym. Mantis will probably tell you the same. They were strong boys, but I was blown away by these lads squatting 4 plates, So for me, it was, I'm going to see if I can have a crack at this, So, training was like that for a while on, I think. But to be honest with you, it's great to be able to throw, this 1 rep max shit is no use to anybody, as you know, in bodybuilding. So, that's something I had to address with our training. Myself and Mantis were a bit guilty of it. So over the last 2 years, obviously, we changed a lot, I would have went, the big thing for me actually last year was going to work with Paul Morgan.
Okay. Yeah.
And Ruslan obviously still being my coach, but Ruslan, he wouldn't have time to train with you. So we definitely needed a bit of guidance. I needed someone to push me. We go hard in the gym. We leave it all on the floor, but I wanted someone that's going to really fucking put me to the grind, So, and obviously, yourself having weeks.
Is that where you hooked up with Paul Hannigan as well? Like you and him were both working with Paul?
Yeah, well, I knew Paul. Obviously, Paul is from Navan as well. And Paul, she mentioned Paul. Paul is another good friend of mine. And we set Paul train quite regularly. So, but through Paul Morgan, then obviously we started to train with Christian as well. So we had a good thing going there. Probably some of the most productive training, and probably one of the best years I had was that year training with Paul Morgan, who's an absolute gent. He's one of the best guys in the industry. I don't know if you know him, but he's a top lad. So Paul would have trained me.
He's a good dude. Like I've always had good.
He is, man. He's a top bloke, and Christian would have been very friendly with him. So I got to know Christian.
And then we used to train with Christian quite regularly. So myself, Paul Morgan, Paul Hannigan and Christian used to have regular training sessions, which was great, you know. It was really, really good, you know. Some really, really good work was done, you know.
Yeah, Christian probably taught.
So,
in terms of what I learned through the years, like Christian probably taught me around 70% of it, because he did prep me for my very first show, and then when I came back in 2017, I did it myself. So I did my own prep there myself. It's my last year as a junior, and it went well. And then when I came back, I had already done off seasons with Christian, but we'd never done an off season into a prep. So when I got into training, like he taught me a lot in terms of like, it doesn't just have to be. I backed off the weight a lot with tons of exercises I used to do. Like I got, you probably got this. Like you get to a point where pushing weight, it just doesn't do it. Like you don't connect.
No.
Like
no.
For you, what did you think was the biggest change? I mean, like working with obviously, working with, you know, Paul, working with Brian, working with Christian, like training with Christian, I suppose, and then, you know, Brian, I suppose, like, how has the training evolved for you? I mean, what's been the biggest changes?
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose at the minute, ironically, I'd say it's probably some of the best training we're doing, because I think finally, you know, it's like you hear. I look at people like Mark Hodson, another guy who I have massive respect for. You know, and I look at the way he trains, and Mantis would have trained with Mark as well. You know, everybody in the game sort of filters in and trains with different people. Like Mantis would have trained with Shane quite a lot. You know, so you know, you take different things from people. But at the moment, working with Brian Ward, we're doing a lot of cluster sets.
Yeah.
And you know, it's. I think I was talking to Brian Hickey about this. He agrees. He's probably seen some of the most productive gains he's ever had using this method. You know, so the training has evolved on in the sense that, you know, we were like two kids in the playground at the start. You know, you're starting out, you're throwing weight around. It then sort of, you know, foolishly became about lifting numbers and not about thinking about, as Brian says, you got to focus on the lines. It's bodybuilding. So, you know, I'm not a powerlifter. I'm not trying to be a powerlifter. I'm trying to be a bodybuilder. So I'm still working at that. But definitely, we've progressed to a point now where the training is making sense. You know, you're getting some really good, solid volume in, you know, and really, really getting some good work in, you know.
Yeah. No, I suppose, like, as we said, like, you came back after a full off season of training. So what was you started winning some shows then. So it's like, I mean, in terms of like, how did it feel to step on stage after like a proper, you know, productive off season? I'd say it was not prepared, like it's like.
Yeah, it was amazing, man. I got to be honest with you. The World BBF was the fourth show in 2018, and I placed second in that to Pat. What's his surname?
Pat
Great guy, Pat. Yeah, good lad. He's big. He outmuscled me, you know. But yeah, you know, going back to the year before, I don't know what people are like, but this is what I'm like. When I assessed that show in 2017 and I looked at the photos, I was a man possessed to make sure I never looked like that on the stage again. So, you know, whatever, and I'm talking about myself and improvements that I can make. And at the end of the day, it's all about whatever improvements that we can make ourselves look better. Not comparing myself to anybody else, you know. But I was a man on a mission to look better. So yeah, when I got up on stage in 2018, it was a bit of vindication for myself, you know, to be able to look at the stage shots for starters, you know. And to see obviously the progress that we made over that year, it was nice to see, you know. Then obviously 2018 we done NABBA, the Masters, the following week or 2 weeks later, I can't remember.
Yeah.
And we won that show, so that was nice, you know.
Yeah, savage. I mean, like with the, you know, you've obviously gone on and you won the Irishmusclepower, and then, like, I mean, what did it, like, I was actually considering doing that, but it just didn't line up right. It just didn't line up right time-wise and stuff. But I mean, there was a bit of money for that as well, wasn't there? So it's like, you got a bit of money,
yeah. Yeah, like people say, I mean, let's be honest about it. Like, you know, there was no one at that show. There was Matt Blaze, that chap Matt Blaze, good lad.
Yes.
He was there. I mean, but I mean, there was no one there, you know. So, but I was glad in a way. Actually, it was one of the best shows I've ever done because, to tell you the truth, down, and man, to tell you this as well. I've always struggled on stage because the approach that we took, although Ruslan would have us literally inside out peeled, and we ran diuretics, right? We cut water 36 hours before the show. And being genuinely honest with you, at the Worlds in Belfast, I was just happy that I didn't fucking pass out on the stage. If anybody seen me there at the show, like Brian Hickey, I was lying on the floor outside 30 minutes before I got on stage, you know. So I'd never been at a show where I was pumped up backstage. I couldn't get a pump because we were literally so depleted. And that's not making an excuse. That's not trying to say, do you know what I mean? I'm not trying to say, I didn't bring muscle on the stage, but genuinely we were literally depleted to nothing.
Do you think it was like too flat? Like, would you prefer to be not as depleted?
It was the approach we took on. It was although we were inside out, we were peeled. I mean, if you look at those couple of shows, the condition was there, but we just sacrificed. There was too much. I mean, if you think about cutting water 36 hours out before a show, and you're running diuretics as well, it gets to the point where you're just taking water out of the cells and the muscle.
Yeah.
So when you're backstage and you're trying to pump up and you're not getting a pump, it's not good, you know. So where I was going with that was at the Irishmusclepower show. You took a different approach. So that was actually the first show where, although there was no one there, I was actually enjoying the stage, you know, enjoying having a pump backstage, feeling actually full, you know. So I learned that show in a lot of ways from me was brilliant because I finally the penny sort of dropped on just to get that peak right, you know. So that was good. It was a good show. A lot of stuff came out of that. Like there was a cash prize, and they gave out sponsorship. So I could see that show really taking off. I know the boys behind the show. There's a lot of serious lads behind it, and they wanted it to be a success. And I think obviously COVID fucked everything up for everybody.
Yeah.
But I'd say you'll see that show coming back, and I think a lot of people will have more interest in it, you know.
Sure. I mean, like an independent amateur show that gives you a sponsorship and a bit of money, as well as being, you know, it's an expo. It's not a show. It's an expo. So it's like, I was looking forward to going to it this year, even, you know. But like as you said, with COVID, I suppose that's a good segue as well. I mean, like after, like what other shows did you do the Worlds after the Irishmusclepower? Was there any other shows you did in 2019? Like, was that?
No, we obviously were prepping. I was literally getting ready for spring. So like everybody else, I was whatever it was, 7 or 8 weeks out. I can't remember, but you know, not talking shit either. But we were shaping up fairly nicely. Fairly happy with the way things were going. Obviously, I was making the step to move away from masters. That we were no more master shows. I was going to have a crack in with the big boys, you know, all these young fellas. See how I fared out against the young lads. But we made the step to start doing, you know, class 1 over 90s, that sort of stuff. So that was the next show on. But unfortunately, obviously, you know, God knows where we are now. I don't know. Were you planning on doing spring yourself?
No, I had a weird one. I had clients. I was prepping a junior. We're still kind of hoping like it was going to be this October. We were kind of prepping this October, but now it's obviously just going to lead into spring. Touch wood, it goes ahead, you know. But we'll see. But no, I didn't have any. No, I was going to compete in October. Yeah, I remember I was like, because I got my ass bet, like I came last, so I was like, yeah, fuck, I'm going to come back and just come in really good shape. And obviously, like with COVID, nothing's happened. So, but it's good. I mean, I tell people this, you know, it gives you time to improve, and when the shows do happen, it'll be stacked. Like everyone will be.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I think the next shows when they happen will probably be some of the most serious lineups we've seen in a long time. Probably the most competitive, I'd say, you know, which should be great to see.
Yeah. I mean, like with you, like obviously stepping away from masters, Because when I generally think of masters competitors, like they're usually guys who've done it for a long time, and it's kind of like they're kind of finishing off their career.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah, I got.
with yourself, like you're only beginning, you're growing, you're still growing. It's not like you're not in the end at all. So it's
Yeah,
like
it was one of them things on like obviously you have to, if you think back to the way 2017 was the first show, which was fucking catastrophe. So when we looked with Ruslan at the next year, which is 2018, we made the decision beforehand to do novice and to do masters. We just said, look, because this is like your first attempt. You are over 40. But I got a bit of stick off a lot of people over there. A lot of lads were slagging me, like Davey Bourne at the time was saying, what the fuck are you doing masters for? But I said, well, I am 40, so I done the master show in 2018, and that the fact that I'd won that show, it gave me the opportunity to do the Worlds in Belfast, which is something I wasn't going to turn up,
that was a good masters class, though. That was
it was an excellent class. And Niall, I mean, to stand on stage with Niall Kinsley was brilliant. Niall is an absolute gent, one of the best guys out there as well. I've a lot of time for Niall, so it was amazing to stand with him on the stage and something I suppose, I don't know about yourself, but I think we all had the opportunity to get up there and represent Ireland in NABBA or BBF, whatever it is. It was nice to do it. It was a good opportunity. So
I mean, I did it myself. I went abroad twice for the PCA. Which was great. I mean, it was like 2017 was great, and then 2019 was. I just wanted to come in and not shit the bed like the last 2 days, like peaking from it. Like I kind of like, I've no shame in saying it. Like I wasn't in condition enough that I could have carved up. So what happened was when I tried to carve up, I kind of just retained a lot of water, and then I overdid it with the diuretics as well. So it kind of just didn't look great. And then for the last show when I went abroad, Tommy Staunton stepped in, and he kind of he didn't do any carbs. We didn't do anything like that. He just did a real mild, like kind of peak, and just came in nice and tight and dry. And I was like, you know what? Like, even though I didn't place, like I placed out of the top 6, it's like everyone else was shredded. Like abroad, when you compete in the Worlds, when you compete in like international level shows, you kind of see like people bring their A game, like people bring it. It's good. Like I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a big step up. Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose, did you feel like you definitely like the thing is, like, even if you went back and did the masters like in a few years, you wouldn't have the body of a masters. So do you feel like you could do both? It's just a shame they don't let you do more than one class in each show,
Yeah, but like you said, I think there's definitely a lot of progress been made in the last couple of years, and it was Paul Morgan that said to me first, he's like, look, you're done with masters, that's it. Brian Ward is of the same opinion. We'd have plans of what we might think we might be able to achieve. You'd hope to be able to be very competitive up there against them lads. Like, I was at all the shows. Obviously, whenever there's a show on here, I'm the first one in line. I mean, I love the sport, even though I came to it so late. I literally love the sport. And I seen Cottle winning Class 1, which was brilliant, It was great to see Cottle up there, standing against Connor. I know all these boys, and it's. I looked at that show closely, in particular, and I thought, Jesus, like, I might be able to be competitive against these lads, and that's what it's all about. I'm not looking at it. I'm not looking at this. I'm going to beat this guy. I'm going to beat that guy. It's about how can I fare in Class 1. So we think we can. We can stand up there and probably bring a bit of muscle on the stage this time. Yeah. Lower half has never been a problem. The lower half's always been pretty good. So, and condition has been okay. So if I can finally bring a bit of tissue on the stage with me, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, see, I mean, that's the thing. Like a lot of older bodybuilders don't tend to have legs. I mean, that's the first thing to go. Obviously, that's not your problem. So, I mean, for your upper body, did you have to train were you as strong with your upper body as you were with your legs? initially?
No. The lower half was always I mean, obviously deadlifting will be a strong point as well. Although we never do it ever, we always probably focus on rack pulls and block pulls. So and during the lockdown there, I think I just lost the plot and just started to try to lift as much weight as I could just to have a bit of crack.
Yeah.
But no, definitely not. Oh no, upper body wouldn't have been a strong point at all. Worked on it now to where the fact we're at the moment. And probably like last night I was doing flat bench and 4 plates, moving 4 plates for good volume, you know. So that's sort of where the strength is. But like I said to you earlier on, now it's really about owning the rep. It's every rep needs to be executed properly. You know, you got to have a proper approach and cut out the headless crap and really know what you're at, you know. And I need to be squeezing the life out of every session, you know, make them count, you know.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where the mindset is at the moment. So, and obviously training with Mantis is a big plus, you know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, like that's one of the things I wanted to talk about and delve into is the training and nutrition side of things, because obviously, like you're a tall guy. You're what, like 6 foot, give or take, or
6'1" just 6'1" on, yeah, 6'1".
Yeah, 6'1". So I mean, in terms of the food that you have to eat to fill up that frame, like would it be like walk me through? I mean, like would you have your first off season against this this current one, and like I mean working with different coaches, I mean like what did you find like worked best for yourself in terms of the off season approaches with the food, I suppose?
Yeah, well, what Ruslan, we obviously tried a couple of different things, but what Ruslan sort of discovered very quickly was that I could take a lot of food on board. And actually, to give you an example, probably before 3 weeks out from the shows we did with Ruslan, I was probably on 400 grams of carbs a day, you know. So we realised quite early on that I probably needed a lot of food to keep me going, you know. So it was, yeah, there was a lot of food. Now, I never got up to the levels. I know Christian was telling me that I think he was on something fucking crazy, like 1,000 grams of carbs a day or something.
Yeah, he told me.
I've never been at that.
Before the universe, he was telling me to fill up when I was training with him. I was like, oh, like, how does it feel? And he's like, oh, I'm eating like 900 grams of carbs a day just to stay full. And I'm like, his issue is he stays lean all the time. Like, he's always peeled. So it's like, I'm just like, he doesn't need to do much to get into stage shape. He just needs to, I don't know, man. I mean, I've known him I went to school with him, you know, so it's like I've known him years, and seeing him go from, you know, he used to be a fat kid, you know, seeing him go from that to like Mr. Ireland, you know, I'm not sure if he's training at the moment. I think he's just taking a bit of a break to focus on. I think
he stood back a bit, didn't he? But I know he was working with I trained with him actually a lot just before he sort of knocked it on the head. Top bloke he is, but like he was almost cartoonish. Like he was cartoonish. Like we'd be doing a bit of posing after training, and you nearly wouldn't want to take your top off standing next to the bloke. Like he just didn't look fucking. You know, like I don't know whether the guy will ever come back again. I really hope he does, because you know, again, you talk about, you know, we look at Irish lads. It's great to see our pros and the girls as well. You know, who could be the next one to step up. I personally thought Christian was there. He was right there. I think he had all the tools to do it. And then when he started working with Patrick too as well, I think he was just that's my opinion, you know.
I agree. I would have said he could have done the 2-1-2s. You know, he would have been a good 2-1-2. I mean, the condition.
Yeah.
You know, and he has
absolutely,
he has the width. But again, you know, I suppose he was telling me like he just didn't. His issue has always been self-belief. You know, like I mean, like he can have us telling him like he's great, but like he needs a bit of the self-belief. Whereas like some people, that's like some people think they're really good, and then they step on stage and they're like, oh fuck, I think I need to take a step back. So I suppose like, like that's what happened to me anyway. I kind of. Like, because my first open men's show, I was like top 3, I was like deadly, and then it was like, you know, a bit of a shock after that. But
I remember seeing you. I mean, I think it was it would have been 2017.
Yeah.
Did you do NABBA in 2017 or was it Keighery or BBF? You done both, didn't you?
Both, man. I did both. I did juniors.
You did, yeah.
It was
Yeah,
good.
because I was backstage, obviously doing the novice, and I looked behind me and I seen all these fucking big monsters warming up. I said, "Geez, who are these cunts? This must be the class 1 boys," you know. I said, "No, that's the juniors.
Yeah.
It's the fucking juniors." It was you. I remember Mark Hodson was there, and Giovanni. Yeah. And I was sitting in there. I didn't compete, and I should have. I don't know why I didn't, but I went down to support Mantis, and I remember seeing you. You know, so you boys were big lads back then, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
had a lot of tissue.
A lot of the juniors. The problem is, I have a lot of the juniors. Like, I started in 2013, so a lot of the guys from that year, are gone. But there was a lot more younger bodybuilders because there wasn't any other classes. So it was like back then it was just bodybuilding. Men's physique was a year old. Like it really was new back then. You had and then just all the classes. And then for the women it was pretty much you didn't have classic bodybuilding. RBBF had its own version of it, but NABBA didn't. And then you had all the women's classes obviously, but on our end, like the feeder system for bodybuilding was junior bodybuilding back then. So you had 20 guys. We would have huge classes back then in 2013. And 2017 was big. There was 8 of us. And then I think it was like 3 guys in this year's show. I was like, I feel bad for them because I'm like, there was more, like, I mean, I'm like, they all look great and everything, but I, as a competitor, I'm sure you're the same, you want to compete against more guys so you can kind of,
yeah, definitely,
you know, you want competition. Like, I mean, like, did you feel like you were, you know, when you did your shows, obviously, you know, you hop straight up to the internationals with the worlds and stuff like that. Did you ever feel overwhelmed? Like, did you ever feel like, you know, what am I doing here? Or like, how was it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think just touching on what you said, Christian would have been, I'd be exactly like Christian or probably worse in that I would never, I'd be very, very honest and say that I'd never think of myself as I'm going to, you know, bodybuilder is supposed to be a certain way. Yeah. Be very, very confident that I'm going to. Mantis will be like that. Mantis is, in his head, he's going to win the show and that's it. But for me personally, I wouldn't be like that at all. So, you know, no, I would have been, I think 2018 or 2017, I fucking shit myself on the stage. It was probably one of the most nervous things I've ever done. Posing as well, you know. You can probably hear the kids here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So 2018, I was nervous. So very nervous on the stage in 2018. Yeah, definitely. Just to try and get it right, to try and look like you could pose and all the rest of it. So yeah, I would definitely would have suffered a bit with that on. Yeah, if I'm honest, yeah, definitely. But you know, you get more and more comfortable with it in time, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like mentally, like I mean, I suppose on my end, like I never get really nervous. I'm quite relaxed. So like my problem is this. It's like I would be a bit too relaxed. So the problem is like I wouldn't overestimate myself or underestimate. Like I wouldn't have the best. Like look, at the end of the day, I know when I enter a show, I have enough tissue to stand with the people. It's just condition. So I'm kind of like, I'm always condition, yeah. Am I going to be lean enough that I can actually do something?
Yeah.
So kind of what's happened to me is like I look at all, that's why I don't like looking at the pictures, because I'm always like, yeah, I'm holding my size up there. The biggest guy, like in class 3, like in like every show I've done, I've been up there. It's like I've never been out muscled. It's just been conditioned. So it's like, I suppose mentally, when I do get in condition, I'll probably be thinking a bit differently. I'll probably be a bit less, I'll be a bit more like Mantis, you know, I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to win.
Yeah.
So I've never gone into it going like, I'd be more like yourself for sure, upcoming to the show. But on the day, it's always been quite relaxing. Like I've never really.
Yeah, definitely. What is it with the condition, do you think? What's
I know.
Why have you not?
It's the first time as a junior, it was time. It was definitely time, and I had a lot more body fat. So my upper body was peeled, and in my legs where there wasn't a cut to be seen. 2017 was I prepped myself, and I think the issue was he just didn't have the second eye. And then 2019, the first show, we didn't want to come in field. We just wanted to get the qualification for the PCA finals.
Yeah.
So the look we had was enough to get top 3, you know, like it wasn't enough to win. So because we wanted to keep the body fresh. But then what happened was I did my own prep. I stopped working with Christian. Like we're still like very good friends and everything, but I just wanted to do it myself. So what ended up happening was just didn't diet hard enough, man. I was kind of like, you know, I thought I was going to lose a lot more muscle than you know.
Yeah.
And but then I talked to Tommy, and then I remember it was too close to the shows, but I went keto. Didn't lose any muscle. If anything, you know, I stayed strong. So I was like, yeah, it was just time. It was just I didn't have a second eye to tell me to do a little more of this or a little less of that.
Yeah, something you need, isn't it?
Yeah. And then for the peak, for the show days, again, because I didn't have somebody there to kind of just, you know, guide me that little bit, I over pushed it with the diuretic, so I actually held all my water for NABBA. I took Lasix. Yeah, I took Lasix, and that kind of just held a lot of water. And then, yeah, for the last show though, it was like no water was held. It was great. It was just did a mild little diuretic up coming to the shows, and then just had some steak and asparagus, and that was it. You know, so I think next time it's just I'm actually working with Niall Kinsella now.
All right, yeah. Niall, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Not for the off season, like I said to him, like Niall, I'm fairly confident in like how to do it. I just need you to kind of just say yes or no, you know what I mean? So he'll be the guy to kind of tell me if I'm in shape or not. And he's building a gym. He's building a gym in his house. So I was like, you know what? I've no excuse then during preps to like mess up, because I can literally go to his house and just pose or whatever, train. So
Brilliant.
That's
great.
That's it, man. It's like there's no secret. It's just I know what I have to do. So it's like I know what I have to do. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be like yourself where I'm a big body, where I'd actually deplete. Like I don't deplete. Like I'd be the opposite. I can afford with doing what you did and just deplete down. Like if anything.
And you'll hold at that.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm only 5'5", so it's like for me, muscle kind of just stick. Muscle does stick. It's just for me to gain a lot of muscle, it's hard. So like the off season, I push really hard with the food, and then I'd be like yourself, like you need to eat. I'd need to eat a lot of food, but then to diet down, I can drop it to like nothing, and it works. So yeah, but I will try. I will do it earlier. Yeah. I think. Did you find, like, with yourself, when you were dieting down, like, how long would a prep for you have been? I mean, long or short?
Well, the Can you hear me?
It's just the picture's frozen, but I can hear you. So. Yeah, no, we're back.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So to give you an example, I suppose the Worlds in Belfast was 8 weeks. That's it.
Okay.
The first prep at Ruslan 2018, we did those 2 shows, and that was 12 weeks. So getting in condition was never a problem for me, you know, and cardio was never the problem, but you could get in condition very, very quickly. The problem has always been just leaving tissue and losing tissue on the build-up. You know, you say you can't. You know, you earn everything in this game, you know, but you can't overdo it in prep, and that's something that I've been guilty of, is going too hard on a prep just to try and focus on the conditioning. And as I said, the approach we took on shows with just that peak week, that approach with cutting the water. So, you know, no diuretics. I mean, if you think about that, no water for 36 hours, and you're taking diuretics. I mean, you're doing that just to stand up.
Yeah, you feel.
I remember on twice actually. It happened in RWBF as well, where I think I was last out to do my routine, and there was only 6 in the show. So we walked straight back around and we were straight back out on stage for the comparisons. I was gone, I was gassed, I was dizzy, lightheaded, you know, and then obviously the Worlds in the Belfast was a similar experience, you know. So, yeah, definitely that was an issue, you know. So condition wasn't a problem, but definitely never got it right yet.
Did you cramp?
Landed on stage with tissue, you know.
Did you find that? Did you cramp up when you were that like depleted? Or were you
oh yeah, it was bad. It was. I mean, seriously, no exaggeration. The Worlds was probably the most scary because, like, anyone that was there from the Irish team, they would have seen me. I was lying on the floor in the hall in Belfast Hall. This is about 30 minutes before I went on the stage. And we took, you know, then at that point, I think we were having spoons of strawberry jam. You're taking the usual jellies and all the usual crap to try to get you a pump. But backstage, when we're chatting to Niall backstage, the lower half was great. Legs are always strong, would always look good, but just couldn't get a pump on. Just literally couldn't get a pump. Just so depleted and so flat. Yeah. You go out and you do your routine. And when in the comparisons, I remember Billy Bourne was saying I probably lost a lot, and I probably should have done better on that show. But I remember telling Billy, look, Billy, I was just happy to fucking stand up and not to fall over, and that's the truth, you know. So if you're coming into a show and you're like that, when you should be focusing on hitting every pose and, you know what I mean, focus and tension, all that sort of stuff, flexing. It's not a good way to be on the stage. It's not an enjoyable experience, you know. So I think hopefully that's a big thing on now. The next time I compete is not to be in a position like that. Probably it is bodybuilding, so you know, it's great being peeled, but you have to bring some muscle on stage. So.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like I found on my end now, I never really cramped on show day. I used to cramp up when I was in the depletion phase. And then what I always did when I did my own preps as a junior, anyway, when I felt, the irony is like what I've learned when I started dieting was it was a lot easier for me to get in stage shape when I was younger. And then when I got older, it kind of like, it's like my muscle won't disappear as easily, but on the other hand, I have to be a bit more harsh on myself to actually get in shape. So when I was like 3 years ago, I was dieting and like the fat just stripped right off. Like now, was I peeled on stage, I was probably about 3 weeks behind, but it was still easy to get to 3 weeks, if that makes any sense. And I found, because the only time I cramped up was when I cut my salt. I stopped the salt, and then I started cramping up. So that would be it. I mean, I'd always just have a little packet of salt just in case I did cramp up backstage and just neck that. Be fine. You know, it would take about 10 minutes and be all right. So but I mean, on your end, like going into the work with Brian, like Brian's very good with like he comes in. He has like the last few shows he did before he got injured, like he looked nasty. I mean, I was competing with him. I was backstage with him, and I was just like, yeah, that guy's in shape. He'll probably win his class.
Condition like his lads, you know, obviously Davey Bourne. I seen the boys when they were prepping for shows, and I used to do a bit of posing with Davey. But Brian Hickey, them boys came in peeled, inside out, you know. There's no doubt about it, And obviously Cottle McConnell as well is one of Brian's lads. Still working with Brian, I think, you know. So good stable of lads, you know.
And then you're working with Wardy now, didn't you say?
I'm working with Brian Ward now. I was with Paul Morgan, and Paul is a friend. He's a friend. He's a mate, you know. We just didn't. We never really got a chance to take off. It was more training sessions with Paul. Paul used to train me, and we did all the usual stuff. But then over I think before the show in spring last year, I was back working with Ruslan. Ruslan was taking me into the show, and with Paul, we just never really took off. Just times, and even though although you could work with an online coach, Paul is probably one of the busiest blokes out there. He's a fantastic stable. And Paul Hannigan was a very good friend of mine, works with him. So that's all it was really, you know. And obviously Brian Ward is, as you know, is a serious bloke, you know. fantastic bodybuilder. I got to know Brian a little bit through lockdown, ironically. You know, you'd reach out to people, messaging them and stuff like that. So Brian is someone I have a lot of time for. He's a top bloke. And, you know, having spoken to him about, you know, about the game and what we might be able to do was definitely an opportunity I wanted to follow up on, you know.
Yeah.
So it's in the early days, mate, you know, so.
Definitely. I mean, like, would he be doing he obviously does your training and nutrition, does he? Does it all for you?
Oh, so as I said, we had a bit of the last month. I've had 2 fucking COVID tests. It was actually, I never get sick, touch wood. It's not something that, because I was that sick, you know. So we did a bit of stop start over the last month, but out the other side of it now, and we're starting to progress. So I think the main goal is just to recomp, you know, and then we'll really start pushing things, you know.
Yeah.
So it's been good. It's been good, man, you know.
You've had a few injuries though, haven't you, over the last while as well?
Yeah, I've had a few. Yeah, I've had a few niggles, and obviously, you know yourself, people are going to say, "Oh, well, obviously because you're fucking big weight around, you know." But yeah, I've had a few, but nothing that would stop you in your tracks, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was probably during the lockdown as when most of them happened, because I just got up in the morning and I'd go out and say, right, how much weight can I lift today, you know? I got to the stage where I had to cable tie weights onto the fucking barbell because there's no room for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had a couple of niggles already on us, just in with the physio today.
Yeah.
I actually thought I had a tear. I was squatting 2 weeks ago is the last time I squatted, and I felt something go up on my hip. But as it turns out, it's just stress on the IT band, you know.
Yeah, I've done that from.
Have you? Yeah.
I mean, I've done my talking about physio though. I mean, you get like, let's say, like, did you find like the thing is, a lot of guys in Ireland don't do any form of treatment. I mean, I'm guilty of that. I'm very guilty.
So am I. Yeah. So am I. Definitely.
Yeah, no, you work with Dano though, don't you, as well? Like,
yeah, I work with Dano. The physio is it today is more logistically. He's in Navan, right beside me, so I popped into him on the way home from work. But no, Dano, yeah, I go to see Dano regularly enough. Dano's a great guy, you know, top bloke.
Yeah.
Obviously, Dano does a lot of the electro needling, and he loves getting them knives out and hurting you, you know. But yeah, Dano's a great guy. I've been to Dano a few times with a few niggles, and he's always got me right, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was very guilty of that for a long time. Probably even still, like you said, most lads, I could probably definitely up, you know, getting some deep tissue massage and stuff like that I don't do, you know.
Yeah.
Probably should look into looking after the body a bit more, you know.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's more of a, it's like, obviously, like, I would ideally like to be able to get to Dano, but it's, again, I'm from Wicklow, so it's like I need to find somebody who's kind of close to me. And even with work, you know, it's like I'd work in Dublin, but again, I'm like, I kind of like, lockdown was a weird one, you know. It's like, you know, the way some people got, like, the first gym that I applied for, they took me on, so I was like, deadly. But I'm also driving 35 minutes each way, and by the time I get back, like, it's taken away from my own training. So I'm gonna start looking for a gym a little closer to me, just to set up base in. But you know, it is what it is. With your work schedule and stuff, though. I mean, obviously you're as I said, like, you're a project manager, so it's like fitting the bodybuilding in is probably, like, with the food, is probably been easy enough to do, or has it been a bit like
it's I tell you though, it's obviously, it's been a challenge right from the start. Obviously, like I do a lot of 7-day working weeks, late nights, but no excuses. Like, you always get the training in. If I'm meant to train, I'll train, whether it means having to do a late session or early in the morning, whatever it takes, you know. But the food isn't a problem, because obviously you could be in the office a lot, and there's no problem. I'd never miss meals. That's never an issue, you know. Never. Always get them in. So probably a lot more difficult for yourself, I'd say, isn't it?
No, it's grand. Like, the gym's kind of like, it's I wouldn't be doing a one-on-one training, so I'm lucky enough, you know. It's like, I wouldn't ideally want to do one-on-one training. It's not my thing. I'm more of the guy who, again, I was in management for years, so I kind of said, you know what, I want to get into gym management and then eventually open up a little place. So
Yeah.
me, I have a few online clients, and they kind of, that would be what I would gear for. So because I'm not doing one-on-one PT, I can eat my food. It's grand. It's just office work and
That's
admin,
good, yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So it's like it's ideal. But the last few jobs, yeah, it was a pain in the ass. Like, so I kind of said, you know what, I'll just bite the bullet and get into the gym business, because I suppose, like, I always tell people this, like, if you love to bodybuild, you need to make it work for it. It's like either
Yes.
be lucky enough that your job allows it, or
Yes.
change it, you know. I mean, like, that's what I did. And obviously you're in a situation where you can eat, so that's the main thing, I suppose. But you have a gym in your gaff, or where's that? Did you just get a few bits of kit over the lockdown, or?
Yeah. I kind of working where I do. When I work in, I look after OPW projects for my company. So we work with a lot of the Leinster House, the Custom House, all these government buildings where I think we all knew lockdown was coming, but we knew it was coming a little bit sooner. So as soon as I got word on that, I just started going out and buying a few bits and pieces from, it was MC Sport. I actually built my own squat rack in the back garden as well, you know. So that was great, you know, because obviously I knew the weather was going to be good. We were going to be off for a bit of time. So I built the squat rack, and then I bought just a cable machine, you know, kind of a multi-function. It has cables on it. It has a low pulley grip. It has lat pull down, you know. And then a chap actually reached out to me on Instagram, actually, and he had a bench and a few plates and a few dumbbells, and he wasn't using them, and I got them off him. So yeah, it's a decent enough little setup. Like, and I got some good work in there, you know. But I think, that being said, like, and I wouldn't give out, because, you know, like, obviously you're affected now, and so many people I know that are in the industry now are affected because of this lockdown. Like, it's not easy. So I never get, like, it's brilliant to be able to train, but I don't think you can't be training in the gym.
No, I'm lucky now. I'm quite lucky. There's a local gym near me. I'm not going to name it just because he doesn't want
Yeah,
to.
don't. Yeah.
So, but basically, when he's in the building, I can train. So, like, I can get workouts in a week, you know. And, like, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna do, like, legs, and then I'll just do, like, a couple of upper body workouts of some sort. And you know what? It's better than last time, because that wasn't an option last time at all. You had lent out with the kid. But this time, I think people are kind of just like, you know what? Like, there's obviously gyms that are staying open, and, you know, there's all sorts of carry on going on. But, like, as I said, look, I'll take what I can get.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm lucky enough that it's extremely, it's a body, like, in terms of the equipment, it's phenomenal. So, like,
That's great.
I can maneuver with that. But no, with work, I didn't think I was going to get to train. I honestly just getting to Dublin's a no at the moment. So once this came up as set. But with yourself, I mean, do you find it harder to get the mindset to train at home? I mean, I certainly did back in.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, I'd be honest with you. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. Although I'd be driven enough. Like, I'd be driven enough at the best of times, you know.
Yeah.
But there was days there where it was a struggle. It was a big struggle to try and motivate myself to do anything, to be honest with you. And even when I was training, probably described it before to people, I felt as though I was only really operating at about 50%.
Yeah.
But that being said, myself and Mantis, we kind of stumbled across a place again, like yourself. I'm not going to name the place or even say where it is, because I don't want to do the guy any bad turns, you know. But we have a spot that's completely off the grids. Mantis has nicknamed it the Dungeon. It reminds me actually of where Doherty and Yates used to train. It has that sort of feel about it, you know. It's sort of like a kind of a powerlifters. This guy had a gym, and it was more a place where him and his mates trained. And it's not really a proper gym, to be honest with you, but it's kitted out like a gym. And that's where we've been doing a bit of work at the moment. It's completely off the grid, you know. It's well kitted out, has everything you need. So that's going to be a big plus to us, I think, you know.
Yeah, I think like at the end of the day, you know, this time around, I think people are kind of more willing to let people train, and people are a
Yeah, I
little,
think so.
you
Yeah.
know, like it's
Just sorry, Alan. Sorry, mate. Sorry to cut across you. Just to give a shout out to Soy from Westside. You know,
yeah,
I think I don't know if you heard, but I know people. You're always going to get trolls on social media. But I see there was a bit of criticism going around that it was some sort of a publicity stunt, but it wasn't. Now, and so I think it was admirable that they tried to take a stand. You know, it's a shame probably that a lot more people didn't stand with them. You seen what, you know, Nathan Diashit and his place over in Liverpool and what they achieved. You know, so yeah, sorry, what you were saying, like it's like mental health is a massive thing for people. I think people really underestimate that for what the gym does for people.
yeah.
You know, I mean, we know, everybody knows, but it's a huge thing for people just to get to the gym. You know, just for a mental health point of view, for a well-being point of view.
Yeah.
And it just didn't make any sense that they took that away this time, or they didn't look at an option of how it might function.
Yeah.
So fair play to the gym owners out there that are trying to keep their places function off the record, off the grid if they can, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like on my end, like I was kind of like, I work in a franchise, so obviously, like we just shut pretty much, and we're not going to be opening. But there's also a case of we don't have enough money that we can reopen. Whereas a lot of these guys, like they're independent gyms, so you know they're completely reliant on the members paying their memberships. And like if members don't want to pay their memberships, like I could see a lot of gyms going under, for sure.
Yeah.
I
Shame.
hope it's not the case, but I mean, like Westside's been an institution up there for however long. I mean, I used to go up every week, but I mean, like seeing that happen, and then there's a few like small gyms, like you know, all the semi-private places. Like I know for a fact, like those places are pretty much open because they can still do one-to-one training, and it's not a commercial gym, so it's like those guys are fine because they can still get guys in, but for the gyms that are just, you know, member-based gyms like Westside, and I'm sure there's a few other places that will end up shutting. I mean, but it's a rough one. You know, I'm kind of like, I would have said the demographic that's being targeted is the wrong demographic. The guys in the gym and the girls in the gym aren't the guys going off to the big house parties, you know.
No.
So like, we kind of stick to it, you know. I mean, like I still live. I obviously at the moment I'm at home. Like I was kind of like 2020 was a wash. I was kind of looking to move back out, but 2020 kind of put a shitter on that. But obviously, look, when you're living with people who are, you know, even if there's a small chance it'll get out here or whatever, I'm like, it's not worth it, you know. So it's like, but the gym was clean. The gym was spotless. Now. It's like we were cleaning everything, you know. It was capped. We would ban people if they weren't being respectful. And I'm sure, like, I mean, where you trained, like, I mean, what's your main gym? Like, I mean, when you're training normally, what would be your main gym?
Yeah, well, in Dublin, Westside would be the gym. I mean, there's some great lads training up there. I see the likes of obviously Paul Morgan, and then I see the likes of you know, this chap Wale.
Yeah, he's a freak.
Wally.
He's a monster.
Oh my God, man! I see him and Gio. There's a lot of them lads up there. Him and that chap Gio, you know. They're Wale's. I think he's not. He said he's not competing, but he's a big lad.
He's 20. I think he's 21. I think he's 21 or 20. Like he's still young. He's so young.
You talk about genetics and who's next in the line, but I mean, if that guy doesn't turn pro, I'll eat me fucking hat.
Yeah.
He's a freak. He just looks incredible, you know. So yes, there's a lot. It's a great gym to train in because you see lads like that up there, and it's obviously you know yourself. It's an excellent gym. Christian used to train there with us as well, and got some good solid sessions. And you see boys coming and going as well. Lads that train in other gyms that pop over on the weekend and stuff like that. So that would be the main gym, and then in Navan, then obviously, and Kells, whenever I can get to them, I have 2 or 3 gyms that I'm a member of. Now we have this spot that's off the grid, which is really good, you know. So yeah, like you said, though, there's Ben Dunn have a gym in Navan which we used to train in. Actually, it was actually a really good gym.
Yeah, I prepped. I did a couple of preps in Ben Dunn's near me, and it's like, you know what, the equipment is always maintained and fixed. So I was like, it did the job.
Yeah, it's like people might slag it and all that, but the place was spotless. I mean, it was well maintained. The showers were fucking pristine. They did, obviously, I think there's some stupid rule where they won't have a dumbbell heavier than 40 kilo. But obviously there's ways around that. Many ways to skin a cat, you know.
Yeah.
But Bendham's always a good gym, but he's not going to open again in Navan. I mean, that's gone, you know. And I'd genuinely worry about a few other gyms in Navan. I mean, it'd be interesting to see who can survive this, you know.
Yeah.
So
there's a few.
Times.
No, it's a weird one. It's a weird one, but to be honest, like I think I wouldn't be shocked if the gym's open in 3 weeks. I really wouldn't. But then again,
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
I also wouldn't be shocked if it carries on. So I think it's kind of like it's really just fine. Like at the moment, I'm not being paid by the gym. You know, I have to go under the PUP, and I'm like, at least this time I'm entitled, because last time I was out of work, I got qualified to work in the gym business in March. So it's like the instant the lockdown hit, I was just stuck at home for 16 weeks, and I was like, fuck. But now it's
That's
like,
tough, man, yeah.
Look, it's handy enough. But at the end of the day, I think the bodybuilders and guys who really want to, you know, grow and they really want to compete, they will always find a way. I saw Shane Cullen has a makeshift gym in his garage. Conor McGee has a gym in his gaff. I mean, all the guys have their own. Cahill McDonald has a there. So I was kind of like, I had the option. I did have a bit of money saved, so I was like, I could buy some kit or I could just find a gym, and I went with the latter. But I think definitely in future I will do what you guys have done. I'm probably just gonna get some bits and bobs, even just for, you know, some days you're not gonna get to a gym. I mean, like
I mean, it's actually been a kind of a benefit in a way, because when obviously the gyms open back up, you know, there might be a day in your routine where maybe it's kind of, I don't know, accessory work. Could be just arms. We do kind of arms or whatever the case might be, you know. So you can, I must send you a link I have. I built a squat rack in the back garden, and I swear to God I could have gone into business, man, when I done that the first time. I put up on my stories what you needed to do. I'm obviously a tradesman, electrician by trade, so we built a squat rack here, the Unistrut. But there's other bits and pieces you could do it as well. So we were able to build a landmine, and the rack is structured in such a way that you could do rack pulls, pull-ups, the whole lot, you know. And this material-wise, I think it cost about €70.
Yeah.
It's just to know how to put it together, you know.
Of course.
So
like me and my dad, more so my dad, he'd be a handyman, like he's always done. He's always built. Like, in terms of building, I built a pull-up bar. I just didn't all the plates, and back in the first lockdown, it was just extortion for what they were charging for a plate.
Yeah, it was disgraceful. Yeah,
I was just like, no, I'm just not going to do it. But in terms of building a squat rack like you've done, I have the stuff in the shed. I have all the corrugated iron, and I have you know, if needs be, I can make it out of wood. But it's kind of there's always a way around things, and it's always, I thought it was great seeing like, oh, you guys make it, because it's like, you know, it was kind of, you know, I just did bands. I didn't have any weights, so I was like, but I also knew that within a couple of months I'd be back to where I was, so I was never too worried about it.
Yeah,
but, like,
you got something done anyway. Yeah,
I did. And you know what's funny though? It's like, I think after the end of this, it'll kind of show like who really wants to compete, who really wants to. It'll pay off for the guys who end up pulling through and not pulling out of preps and everything. And I mean, look at all the pros. I mean, like, their shows have been cancelled and cancelled and cancelled. So
yeah, I think you're right. I think, but I think to be honest with you, I think when you talk about a bodybuilder, I think we're all cuffing the same cloth. Yeah. All the people that you just mentioned, I don't know anyone off the top of my head that I would say that wasn't doing exactly the same. Everybody I know was finding a way to get it done, you know. Yeah. In whatever shape. I mean, you know, you did it with what you did. People may not have had things at their disposal, but you can be guaranteed they got something done, you know. So yeah, I think definitely they're the lads who, I think it's going to be very, very interesting the next time we see a national lineup on some of the big classes, as class 1 to 3. I think they're going to be very, very stacked. You're going to have a lot of people chomping at the bit, I think, you know. So that's something we definitely look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, like I have a junior doing, like, I think the aim is like spring. So I'm like, I just told him like he's 20. I think he's 21. I think he's 21. Like, so I'm kind of like, still has a couple of years. So I was like, but he's tall. He's about 6'1". So I was like, you know, he has a lot of filling up to do. But you know, he walks around 105. So it's kind of like, if we can get him up to 110 and just peel him, you know, as a junior, you just need to be in condition to win the show.
Yeah.
There's not really any guys who have a lot of muscle. And if they do, they end up doing very well because they stick out like a sore thumb. So obviously, you had guys like Mantis, who was, when he did his junior show, he was just a big and shredded. And then obviously with Giovanni, when he was a junior, he bet me and Mark. He leapfrogged over me and Mark because he was just looks like he was natural then as well. You know, he was a natural and he bet us. And I was just looking at him like, it's just.
Yeah, I know.
No,
I remember the shows. I watched as I said, I sat in the show in the RWBF, 5 rows in the front, and watched you on stage. So I remember the show as well. And I remember looking at Giovanni. You remember looking at genuinely, and I'm not just saying it, but looking at all of you, thinking, "Fucking hell, are these lads juniors? They can't be juniors."
Yeah.
When
I went over to the, because the thing is, I'm 26, but like, I mean, I've always looked older. So it's like when I went abroad as a junior, like nobody believed me that I was a junior. And I went on my own. I mean, I didn't have the money at the time to get a plane ticket. So what I had to do was really, really tough. It was like 14 hours of trains and a boat. So I was kind of like, by the time I got to my hotel, I was I had also tried water loading. So I was drinking 8 liters of water a day while doing this. So I was carrying around like 8 liters of water with me and taking all these trains. And I got to the show, and you know what? Look, it was a great experience. But some of those juniors, I remember looking backstage, and I was like, they are some big fucking units.
Yeah.
Now they didn't come in condition, but over in the UK, it's a different scene. So it's like it's just
it's an eye opener, isn't it? It is when you see these lads up close, you know.
I mean, you've been to the Mr. Olympia, haven't you?
Yeah, we went over. Yeah, we went. It was something like. I mean, I said to you, if you'd have asked me in when I was 34 who Doherty and Yates was, I wouldn't have had a fucking clue. But I didn't know nothing about bodybuilding. So Mantis would have been the kind of kid that when he was 15, he'd be in the back garden hitting front double biceps and all that sort of stuff, you know. So, but yeah, when I got involved in the sport, so I literally fell in love with it, loved the sport. So obviously, you start to look at the pros, you know, and going to the Olympia was something that I was really looking forward to doing. So yeah, we got over there last year. It was a strange year, obviously, because Phil didn't compete, and it wasn't. There was a good few people missing. It was great, though, I think, to see these lads up close on. It was unreal. Some of the classes, like I think some of the other classes were nearly more impressive, like the 212 lads and the classic was. I mean, these boys were. I mean, they were almost like cartoon characters, as I said. They were unreal, you know. Yeah. But it was a great experience, and I think if anybody ever got the opportunity to go over, and to do it, you know, it's definitely something you should do, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I've never seen. I'm trying to think. I mean, like I've seen a lot of pros. I've met a lot of pros. Like when I was in the UK, I saw Jamie Christian, Jones, and he just walking around, seeing him walk around. I said, he's still the biggest, like the widest, and for that height, I'm just taken aback. Like I have a friend who trains in his gym. He's a freak. I've seen Keighery when he came over here. He's a freak. Lee Priest after he won the Universe. God, I mean, I've met a good few guys, but I've never like seen them in that kind of quantity. It's always been like they might be at a show because they have a client or something, you know, but they're never competing. I've never seen a pro compete. So I mean, like, what was it like seeing it on stage? Because I mean, like, I know it doesn't carry over. I know it's like,
I think, yeah, if you look at them, I found that like that. I was watching some of the previous shows, the most recent shows, you know, Spain and I know the New York Pro was on Atlanta and stuff like that. So I found that it really does. The sport itself doesn't do itself any justice because it should be promoted in such a way. Now I believe they're going to do it for the Olympia this year. It's like, you know, if you're going to watch a Premier League match, you're going to see it's you know, it's high definition. I've never looked at a bodybuilding show, and it doesn't translate. It's when you're looking at them in person at the Olympia, it's fucking unbelievable. You know, you're seeing these guys up close and they look amazing, but if you're looking at the footage, it just doesn't look the same for whatever reason. I don't know. So I know with this year's Olympia, I think they're going all out because of COVID as well, to present people a proper pay-per-view package. You know, so you'll feel like you were in the show. You know, but to see them up close on.
I mean, they did that. They did that up until 2006. So I actually have Olympia DVDs. I have a few of them. And they're like, I mean, they're as good quality as it would have been back then. Like, I mean, it's 15 years ago, you know. So I have but even that's better than the bloody webcast they've been doing. It's a shame because they have all this money. It's like, why not reinvest it into what every other sport does? But hopefully it is really good. But I mean, like, obviously with the Irish guys, I mean, it's been great seeing like Shane competed, and he'll be competing again in 2 weeks, I think. And I mean, I mean, of course, I mean, do you like, I mean, in my opinion, do you think the Irish guys have the ability to be competitive internationally? I mean, like, there's a few guys I think who can, but then I think as a whole, I think we have a lot of catching up to do. I think we're about 5 years behind.
Yeah, I think, I mean, let's be honest about it. I think, you know, we are, and massive respect. I mean, huge respect to all our pros. Like, you know, I wish them. I'd love to see them boys. I'd love to see an Irish man at the Olympia, or woman. Yeah, let me say that. But it would be amazing to see one of our own at the Olympia. You know, and I think it is achievable. I think we'll get there. You know, I mean, we probably are a good bit behind the States. Obviously, you know, I mean, look at Eastern Europe. You know, you look at these lads. I mean, they're just freaks of nature. You know, they're massive. And I watched Shane. I mean, Shane looked amazing. He looked incredible. His posing routine was insane.
I don't think it was his main show. I think he's aiming for the British. I think this was kind of just to see how it feels, you know. So
yeah, I think hopefully he'll do well there, you know.
Yeah.
So I think we are behind, but I think it's definitely why not? Like, I mean, we punch above our weight in every other sport.
Yeah.
I think, you know, we've got obviously a lot of different influx into the country now. They're all Irish, but different nationalities. You know, and we're seeing. I mean, we had Blessing obviously, but I do. You know, I look at the likes of Wally, and I mean, that guy's an absolute freak. I mean, he's 21 years old. So, like, if that guy was able to get the next 10 years behind him, ticking all those boxes, I mean, he's a pro. That's a pro bodybuilder, and I think he could really go to whatever level he wants to, you know.
Sure. I mean, I'd say next in line would be, I'd say Giovanni. Once he brings up his legs, I'd say he'll do quite well. He just needs to bring up the lower half. But I mean, he's so big anyway and so bubbly. I mean, he just looks like a cartoon. And I was training with him. In fairness to the lad, like, me and him would train every week. Pretty much trained most weeks in 2019 so he was there with me through all the preps. And then his preps kind of just got shit on. But I'd say he'll do quite well at the muscle contest if he's doing the muscle contest. And I mean, there's a few sleepers. I'm sure there's a few guys we're not thinking about that.
I've no doubt. I mean, you know, you have. I mean, I'm going to be biased again, but Mantis is a guy to watch out for. I think in the next 2 years he'll do something.
Yeah.
I think he's stepping up now. I mean, I think I'll probably stand on stage against him. And please God, you know, the next time we get up on stage, he's gonna be in class 1.
Yeah.
You know, this like, if this guy puts any more tissue on that frame, he's gonna be hard to beat.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he has that freakish genetics. He's
Eastern European, isn't
Yeah, I mean, he's Lithuanian. Yeah, he's Irish, but he's from Lithuania, you know.
Yeah.
So them boys, I think they must put something in the porridge with their kids. I don't know, but yeah, he's you know, I think you're right though. I think we probably are being not. I think maybe just not thinking about other people off the top of their heads. But I'm sure there's other serious lads out there that are gonna.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
Vinny
show up in the next few years.
Vinny Crane's another guy who I'd probably think could do. I mean, give him another bit of time, and he'll probably do quite well. I mean, he plays top 7 in a pro show. I mean, that's not a bad old thing. But
yeah.
I mean, I suppose we're coming up to the hour and a half. So, like, I mean, just before we finish up, I mean, do you have any? I mean, obviously, do you have any sponsors or any people you need to kind of just give a bit of a shout out to?
Yeah, I give a shout out to the lads up in NI Supplements up in Belfast who looked after me, you know, since last year. Top bunch of lads. Obviously with lockdown, you know, people can't maintain that sort of stuff, but the lads are top class and they looked after me. So big shout out to the boys there. I've the butchers in Navan, me Gleason's butchers. They looked after me for a long time. Karen, my wife, is in the ear here, making sure I remember everything. Another butcher's called Walter. So these lads have been really good. You know yourself as a bodybuilder, so with the amount of money that we spend on food, you know, so any sort of help like that at all is great on, you know.
Yeah, I used to work in the kitchen when I was a junior, so I remember I used to get all my meat wholesale for my preps. Fucking deadly. It was great. It's like I could just get
class, yeah.
It's class, but I suppose, you know, that's deadly, man. And I suppose, like, would that have been the sponsorship you got from the Irishmusclepower?
Yeah, it was, yeah. Biotech as well. You know, that came through NI Supplements as well, you know. So it's the obvious stuff, you know. But it was nice, I have to say. It was nice. It was great. That show, in fairness, like I said to you, was actually probably one of the best shows in that regard, you know. I mean, there was a cash prize of €500 for winning the overall. It's not to be scoffed at, you know. So I think knowing them lads, they're serious lads, and these are the boys that would be like Dave Warner. These are the lads that would be behind NABBA Northern Ireland as well.
Yeah. So
they're good bunch of lads, and they're trying to promote this show and trying to push it on. So I think in the next 5 years or less, that show could become a big show. Could become a show that people look at, you know. I think timing was a problem though, and I think they realised that they're probably going to look at moving it closer to spring. I think that's the way you might see that show now around spring, around just after NABBA in Northern Ireland, you know.
Yeah. So
that's one to watch for the future, you know.
Deadly. Well, look, it was a delight having you on, man. And as I said, look, I'll send I'll send you a link or whatever when it's up. And sure, look, I'll have it up by Monday anyway. And
thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Look, I'll see you on the circuit once it starts up back again, you know. But,
yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt.
And look, for everyone.
Listen, thanks, Alan. You're a gentleman. Appreciate the chance to come on.
Much appreciated, man. All right, and with
Cheers,
that,
bro.
we are